Vaxxo has just joined us here now. How are you today?
I'm good, and you? Thanks for having me, by the way.
Yeah, I'm doing really good, and thanks for joining me on the show. I like the hat you're wearing.
Oh, thank you. It's my trademark, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen a few pictures. It's quite a cool
Thank you.
trademark to have, isn't it?
Thank you.
And you've got a new single called Is This Love? How would you describe the sound of that song?
So this song is a song that makes you think twice about the world that we live in today.
Yeah.
I wrote this song. I was in a deep hole in my life when I wrote it, and was quite funny, by the way, to write this song, because when I write songs, I usually base the songs in pieces of my life, that like experiences.
Yeah.
And this one, I was experiencing the moment. I was like depressed and going through a tough stage in my life,
Yeah.
and came up like that, just came up like that.
Yeah. Was it quite fun to come up with a song like this?
Yeah, you know what? You can say now. I can say yes.
Yeah.
At the time, I was like, you know what? I don't know. It was like very hard for me to write a song that type. But now, when I look at the way that people are reacting to the song and the way that the fans are actually giving me the feedback,
Yeah.
it's amazing, right?
Yeah.
I think all the musicians go through that stage, right? It's you write about you or about something that it's around you,
Yeah.
and that's what happened with this tune.
And how great does it feel to write a song and then the fans really appreciate it?
Oh my gosh, that's such a good feeling. It's amazing that your work, it's being like, um, when people listen to the song, they come back to me and say, "Hey, Vaxo, it was really good, and this song actually changed my life too." And I got a lot of that like lately, saying that,
Yeah.
"Hey, as soon as I heard the song, I was like, oh, this is me," and that's the point. That's the point that I want to touch in people, right? Like that's all about people, not about me, about people.
Yeah, for sure. Now, how did you first start to get into music? Was there a particular moment for you when you were younger that really kicked it off?
That's a really good question. So what happened was I was living in Portugal. I'm a
Mm.
Portuguese, and I grew up like at home was always there was always music. My parents had like records all over, like hi-fi's at the time, all that stuff, and I always had that thing. And it's funny because my family, they're all sports guy, and
Yeah.
I end up being the black sheep, right? Like
Mm.
musician, and I decided to I left school early, obviously, because the
Yeah.
musicians, they don't stay in school for too long,
Yeah,
and
that's
I
true.
started when I started my career that way. I started like playing in bars, cover bands, I got to a point that I was like, you know what, I have to do something for myself, and instead
Yeah.
playing other people's songs. It's very important to create my career.
Yeah. Well, when you left school early and started playing music, did you feel confident that you would be able to sort of get by in the sort of gig economy?
Uh, well, at the time, I was way younger, so there was always that dream. Okay, I'm going to be a full musician. It's going to work out. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But looking at the situation right now, you know what, I thank God I left school and I went straight to music.
Mm.
But looking at the situation at the world right now, it's complicated to be a musician, and
Yeah,
this
definitely.
musicians, everything that goes into the art, it's always complicated, right? So, but yeah,
Yeah.
I think I made a good option, like,
Yeah.
but
Well, even though you started before this pandemic, you're still working through it. So how's it affected you creatively?
you know what, this is actually how can I put this in
Mm.
words? It's actually a bad thing that's happening in the world, a pandemic, and it's creating a lot of chaos.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's actually a good reason to write, right?
Yeah, for
Like,
sure.
because it's a depression time. Everybody's going through a tough a moment, and it's giving me a lot of ideas. In fact, I wrote already 10 songs for the next album. It's
Wow.
so so yeah, it's a good thing for me though. It's a bad thing and good.
Yeah, I see what
Yeah.
you mean. Obviously it's very tragic that people are dying, but you
Yeah,
kind of feel guilty about saying that we like staying at home, really.
that's true. That's true. You know what? It's not a fun time,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
I in Toronto, I see that like people they're going crazy, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's how can I say this? It's helping a lot of people too, right? Like,
Yeah.
but unfortunately, it's the way that it is, man. It's a life that we live in. Right?
Yeah, well, hopefully one day we'll be able to get back to live concerts in a normal way again. Have you been performing online gigs? Because a lot of musicians have done that, I've seen. I don't know if you've put yourself forward for any of that.
Yeah, so that's actually a really good question. I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday about that. I'm not a big fan of doing online gigs,
Mm.
just because I find that the money that you put into these and the time that you put into these, it's a lot, right? Like when
Yeah.
you record an album, it's not an easy thing, and especially the time. Forget the money, especially the time, and then you go and play live on the internet online,
Yeah.
and it's you're not getting anything back, right? Like technique, this is your job.
Mm.
Like if you don't make any money back, and I do this as a passion. I don't look that way, but you know what? You have to
Yeah.
get some feedback back sometimes. It's important.
Yeah, and it's not really the same experience. Like, if I wanted to say I've seen Vaxxo, seeing him on a live stream isn't really the same as going to see him in the flesh, is it?
Completely. And the thing is, I grew up like my music career was all based in live shows.
Yeah.
And when all this stuff happened, I had like a few shows. We're working and booking some shows in Toronto and US, and soon going back to Europe to play some shows.
Mm.
But unfortunately, it didn't happen that way, and it is what it is. You know, there's nothing that we can do.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, do you have any highlights in your musical career before the pandemic that stand out to you?
Uh, you know what? The good thing about music and the good thing about me moving to Canada was the fact that I met a lot of people. Like
Mm.
I can even name them because there's so many like important people in the music business.
Yeah.
And I've been recording, for example, my producer is his name is Ben Pelshad. He's been recording with like top-notch people around the world, Nashville people.
Ooh.
Yeah, so and we get a lot of connections, right? And that's my highlight of these, right? I feel like a kid in a candy shop, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it's amazing, man. Like the experience of recording with other people. It's like the second album now. It's got to be mostly collaborations with a lot of people, like from US, from Toronto, from Europe. So that's what I want to do, and it was good.
Yeah. Do you consider yourself a particular genre? Because some people don't necessarily like to categorize themselves. So I wonder, are you similar to that?
No, it's funny because in a lot of magazines and even I just submitted something to LA for this magazine that they call me and ask me what was my genre. And I just told them, you know what, do me a favor, go on YouTube and go on Spotify and listen, and you get back to me and tell me.
Yeah.
And they all came back with the same electro rock because I mix a lot of, I like, I'm a big fan of David Bowie's
Mm.
and Nine Inch Nails and all that stuff, and that's my roots, right? So
Yeah.
I try to pick from here, from there, and create like a bunch of stuff, and that's why the electro rock came up. Like I think I agree with the interviews, the hosts from magazines and everything. Like I think I'll go for electro rock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, have you got any more music coming out in the not too distant future?
Yeah, so there's another single from this EP. If I'm not mistaken, the Runaway. The name of the song is
Oh,
Runaway, and it's more like a electro, a pop. I don't call that song a electro rock, electro
okay.
pop. And it's got to come out with a video. And after that, most likely I'm going to go into studio in the next 2 weeks, if I'm not mistaken, and we got to start recording the second album. This album is this instead of a EP, we got to record a full album. That's what's
Oh,
gonna happen.
that's exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing, man. It's a lot of work, but it's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you enjoy going in, then that's all good. Have you been recording at home or if you still had the chance to go to a studio during this pandemic.
Exactly. So that's a good thing. So what I did is in my place here, I have a small room and I created like a small studio.
Oh,
And from there, what I do is I compose there and I write the lyrics there, and then I'll take it to the big studio. So I was trying to put all the things together, all the pieces together to take it to the studio, and I
yeah.
think I'm done with that. So now it's just a matter of time. Like I'm just waiting for these. I assume the next 2 weeks, but if it doesn't happen, we'll have to postpone
Yeah.
maybe for the next month or so.
Well, where are we able to check out all your music and, in particular, the new song, Is This Love?
So you can go into my website, which is www.vaxxosound.com. You can go into YouTube. You can just type Vaxxo and a bunch of stuff. I don't have the links in my brain right now, but if you type Vaxxo, everything shows up. Um, and Spotify, Apple, iTunes, all these big platforms, it's got to be there. It's got to be there.
Great. And where are we able to follow you and keep up with what you're doing on social media?
So you can follow me on Facebook, Vaxxo Official. The same link for Instagram, which is Vaxxo Official as well.
Yeah.
And right there, you can see everything. I don't hide anything. That's my life right
Yeah.
there. It's all good. Yeah, that's the main social media, and you can follow them on Twitter as well, Vaxxo Sound.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
we've already played your song, Is This Love? So is there any other song of yours that you'd like us to stick on for you just now?
Oh, that's I like all of them. Let me see. There's a song that was my first single from this EP and was a big success in all over Europe. The End of the World. You can check that one out.
Great. We'll stick that on for you just now. Thank you for coming on the show today.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Thanks for having me.